Hey guys, we are checking out the official Next.js SaaS Starter by Leeroy and his gang. There are many boilerplates kind of like this out there. This would kind of stand out as a kind of more maintained, over 10k stars. But I'm not sure this is the best for the most general use case. Also, this is a great example to showcase Stripe too. Yeah, the rest of it would be kind of easy, but Stripe is usually portrayed kind of badly. If you go on the internet and look for guidance, and even the Stripe official docs can be lacking, or very least can be outdated. And video-related guidance about Stripe, it's kind of pretty bad too. Anyway, I forked their stuff and also made a few changes. I made a few executed decisions. First of all, they were just using local Postgres, which is just kind of dumb. I mean, it's fine. But suppose you were just throwing darts at the wall to see what sticks. I think the best choice for that would be Turso, because they give you 500 free projects. You can just try that. And suppose SQLite proves to be insufficient for scaling, then you can go and migrate into Postgres. Or I guess plan B would be you could just start with Neon. But even Neon would give you 10 free projects, not 500. And we are using Bun instead of PMPM. My preference. I guess we should just look at the env first. Well, auth would be a random string. Base URL, you can just leave it as that. You would change it in prod. Webhook secret is different because you need to install Stripe locally, or at least I would highly recommend that. And then you can generate the webhook secret that we will need for webhooks later, quite obviously. And we do need webhooks because we don't want to be polling Stripe, and that's not really an elegant solution either. So under certain events, Stripe is going to be sending us information that we are listening for and updating the database based on that. And the last part would be your database URL and your auth token from Turso here. So with everything added, this is how the project looks. By the way, I'm trying to go at a good pace, not going over all the basic stuff. So we have a login, but in this case, I'm not sure if I agree with the style of login that they're going for. So obviously at the top right corner, let's just sign out just to see what we have. So this is how it looks like. So we can sign up and we can create a new user. So we just type in our email and our password. Our password gets hashed, and of course it gets stored in the database along with our email, and then we have an account. And in this case, and this is kind of perhaps a detour, but this could take long because in this case, we are not really sending the user an email. So we're not really giving them the runaround. And I would say in most cases, this could be a bad choice, especially if it's the only choice. Because the classic way to log in the user just takes too long. And in this case, we are not even verifying the user. But let's just log in, my email with the password selected. And we are checking it against the database, and it should be all fine. So our current plan is monthly too, because I did play around with it a little bit. There isn't that much to this boilerplate. We have the dashboard, and we have the pricing where we can sub to. Well, if you are in dev mode, then it takes a while to generate the pages. So we have this. But keep in mind, albeit I didn't explicitly stated, you need to create the DB before based on the schema, and also you will need to create the plans in Stripe. I guess you can use the seed for it. I did not. I'm not sure you should either, but it is an okay option, I suppose. And by the way, I didn't make that many changes. I just changed the DB to Turso, and obviously we are using Bun. So that's pretty much the same as their project. By the way, my nitpick and my possibly the problem would be with this example is that it's very team-based. So in the schema, we have like teams and team members and activity logs and invitations. I mean, this could be absolutely perfect for some projects, but it would not be a typical SaaS project, I suppose. And also we are storing the custom ID in Teams. So I'm not sure what was the plan here, but it's okay. And by the way, this is not something that I changed, but they have. You can see if I open up their repo, and they're using the same strat. The logic would be not that hard to follow, but it is somewhat long. So we wait to get the prices from Stripe and the products. Now, this might not scale well. If you want to have a basket too, this is not a good idea. Although, also, this is something that I had to learn, that if you get Stripe products, right, of 8 products list, you get 10. If you have more, you only get 10, which is great if you don't want your site to choke, possibly getting tens of thousands of products or more. But even if you only have subscriptions, and let's say that you have more than 10, then you need to be mindful of that. You might need to up the limit here, because you're not gonna get every single one. That is exactly the problem I had, that I have a 12 or so test options, and I was not getting the monthly plan, because by default, you get 10. And it is a little annoying that you need to get information about the price and the product separately, and then we have to later filter and combine to use with the cards. There's definitely a simpler solution to this, but I suppose this might be more reliable, except the part that if someone adds a few products, then yeah, it's just gonna break, unless you up the limit. And then the interesting part is the pricing card. And I guess the submit button, that's a nothing burger. We got the checkout action, which is over here. And we're using the price idea to hit an endpoint, but this is a kind of a Next.js specific thing. Might be a thing in other frameworks too. So we are not writing the endpoint. We can just write the function, and userver kind of saves us from writing the endpoint. Although, personally speaking, while this is kind of cool, I do prefer to see what kind of endpoints we do have, so I can see what is up. And the options are a little involved here if this is your first time seeing Stripe, but the important part is that we are generating a checkout session with the price idea, and quantity of 1, you have to add that you can further customize, but the most important part is that then we are redirecting to a Stripe URL. And if whether that succeeds or fails, we will be redirecting to our site. Yet, this would be a good opportunity to mention that how are you gonna know what happened, right? You don't. So we have to listen for it. And this is where the webhook comes in. And in this case, this is pretty good as example. So we have a post request, and we are receiving an event, and based on the type of that event, we are essentially calling different functions. In this case, we are calling the same function. It is that simple. Now, there are a lot more events you can listen for. In most cases, if you're not doing subscriptions, you would be listening for the checkout session completed. But for this project, we only care about subscriptions. And we need to make sure that we are running Stripe locally to listen for it. This is the part where the webhook script comes in handy. So when you activate it, you can see that we are creating events, billing portal session created, and we are also receiving events, such as customer subscription updated. But for now, the most important part that it is running. Because if you don't run it, then you're gonna have a very unhappy customer who's paying but getting nothing. But of course, this is just for testing. In prod, you would need to send them to your address. Of course, first time around, we wouldn't have anything but one user in the DB, and possibly something in the activity log. We say sign out, sign in, sign out, yeah, and sign up. Great. And create theme only happens after subscribing, I think. But perhaps better portrayed if we create a new user. So we have no checking here. We just have Bob, gmail.com. And as long as they have a 8-letter password, then they are in. And we can see that the current plan is free. And there is really nothing on the homepage that interests us. So the pricing really matters. And here we can subscribe. Of course, we are getting this information from Stripe every time. So let's get started. Okay, so we redirecting to Stripe here. And we can fill it out. But I kind of have a few notes here. First of all, in order to test, you need to just write 4242424242. You can just write whatever for the rest. It kind of depends. The other information collected is based on what you're requiring the user to have. But one aspect that I'm going to critique and note that we had to fill out the email, which personally I'm not a fan of. That can also deter some customers. But the most annoying part is suppose that they inaccurately fill out their email, then that's gonna be really bad. So one thing you can do is that you can actually create a customer, then have their email essentially automatically be filled out, which is what we are not using currently. Now, there is a reason for this. If you create a customer before the checkout, then you're gonna have a ton of customers who possibly never paid you. Now, this doesn't cost you anything, but perhaps you can argue that your customer panel got a little more messy. But the alternative would be is that I'll bet your customer panel gets messier, but you eliminate the mistake of the user filling out their email incorrectly, and possibly less of them are going to be deterred on this page that they have to fill out their email, or at very least, it's gonna be a smoother experience. So personally, I would be in the camp of let's create the customer first. And of course, if the customer comes back, so suppose they already paid, then you would have their information already filled out. So that's a kind of a better experience. So this would be my slide detour. You want to make it as easy as possible, but let's just click the button and see what's up. And by the way, now that we're here, we can see that we have like GPay option and pay with link. So you can customize what payment options you have. Essentially, you can just turn it on. And it's not relevant right now, but suppose you would be using Stripe to handle your basket, but you're not really paying on Stripe website, then some options might not be available, but that would be a different matter. So let's start trial. So after processing, we should be redirecting. So we got the green check mark. So we see that it's updated too. So we got bobgmail.com. He's an owner of team members, of whatever this is. And then we have the current plan of monthly one. So something to keep in mind, that in this case, we are using the same name we have on Stripe for it. And that is certainly a choice, but it might not be the best choice as well. Because suppose you use the name that is descriptive on Stripe, but you gotta keep in mind that many of these subscriptions tend to have like kind of short and dumb names. So it could be like base and silver and gold and pro or enterprise. Now, the thing is, if you only have a few things on your Stripe, this might not be a problem. But you would definitely need to know what is what, and suppose what you are using on Stripe would not be acceptable for the user, then you would need to have a separate thingy. So currently we are using the same name we have on Stripe, but this solution is probably suboptimal if you have more stuff on Stripe. But this would be a great opportunity to talk about the webhook. We see various events here. Setup intent created. The important for us is checkout session completed, and that's when we created the customer, and we attached a payment method, and we updated the customer with that. And then invoice, and most importantly at the end, customer subscription created. So we are listening for this customer subscription updated, and the default would be just consoling it out, right? And when we are hitting this case, then we are calling the handle subscription change function, which simply updates the database with the relevant information that we have. And by the way, I'm not sure if they had a bug or possibly a suboptimal way of handling it, but I had to add this product because we did not have the product name. So I had to use the product idea to get the product name. But of course, this would not matter if we were using a local name for the subscription. But in this case, we are using the same name that we have on Stripe. And at the very end, we just put it into the DB. And so in this case, the teams, I guess we have 2 users too, right? But we have 2 teams as well. And we have the customer idea. That is the ID of the user, but somehow we have it in teams. And we have the subscription idea and the Stripe product idea. And most importantly, not most importantly, but also important, we have the plan name and the subscription status. So we want to check for that. And also important that, updated that, yeah. Because if we are out of date, then it really doesn't matter about the status. So you would be checking for the date and you would be checking for the status. Obviously, you want to see active and not expired. So looking into Bob's Dash, we see the current monthly plan is monthly 1. General would be account information. We can change your name. Okay. Activity. Okay. I'm not sure you would want to go for this. Usually, I don't really see this, but I guess it doesn't hurt. Might bloat your DB a little bit. And we can change our password and delete our account. All right. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the password login. I think it's fine to offer it if you already offer 2, at least, quick logins to someone who prefers it. Especially it's annoying because if it was exactly like this, that you just add your email, add the password, and you're in, like that, it wouldn't be that annoying. But many times, many websites, somewhat understandably, they make the process much more difficult because they want to make sure that they have real users. But this pretty much means that you could be just spending 2 minutes first time you're making an account. And if they actually want to collect information about you, which is painful, then yeah. Also keep in mind that your user might also forget which email they used, less likely, or they forget the password they use for you. For your site. Yeah, I don't think email and password is meta, but it could be okay to offer it as an option. The only feature that we did not look at is updating the subscription. So, manage subscription for Bob, which you would usually just copy, and customer portal action and create customer portal session. So essentially, we opened up the billing section on Stripe and we can customize it. But the important part is that we need to pass the customer, and I guess we are also passing a return URL. But most importantly, we are just redirecting to a Stripe page, which is what we are seeing here. And truly, we only have 2 options here. We can cancel the subscription, right? Or we can update the subscription. Yay! Monthly 1, monthly 2, and monthly 3. Right. But it is not how it looks by default. You have to customize it. So on Stripe, you would have to navigate to the billing customer portal section, and we can customize it. Customers can switch plans, monthly 1, 2, and 3. And you need to disable changing the quantity if you're dealing with subscriptions. And that's pretty much it. I certainly think that it's more useful for you to see me go through the steps than just see me typing. But to understand this, you would need to try it out yourself. And this is kind of tricky. You would need to talk to AI a lot and read the Stride documentation as well. Of course, we have a middleware to protect the dashboard. Although I would argue a more general solution would probably be better, because suppose someone adds a page that in this setup would not be protected. But it kind of depends on how you want to run your business. Interesting to note that somewhat of the project size kind of comes from trying to add email and password login. So we have an auth here. Usually this would be much shorter. And then we have the login too, which is like kind of like fine, but we need more actions here. And also there could be more ways to get it wrong, because I would argue that although this could be a good example of how to add email and password login, it is still woefully inefficient and insufficient. That would be the word. Because currently, we can just type in an email, we can type in 8 letters, and like, we're in. It's certainly fine as a basic example, just noting that in order to really add it, you need to at least verify their email. Now, I personally think that the boilerplate is pretty well written, but it is not going to be the choice for a typical SaaS. So personally speaking, you would be probably better served to copy from it, learn from it, but probably not copy it. Unless this is exactly what you need, in which case it's great. But ultimately that is the kind of the flaw of these boilerplates, these starters, that you either add not many things, right? Just to possibly get started a little faster, that you can possibly reuse quite a bit, or you add many things, but in that case, that boilerplate is not going to be relevant for most use cases. And honestly, there could be a market for that, for making great starting points for various use cases. But it's always going to be a trade-off between like you trying to make it yourself versus you trying to find something that is suitable or possibly even perfect for your use case. So that's it. See ya.